Hey guys, welcome back. It's Alex Valle, Papa Valle in the house, and we're back for another episode of Wednesday Night Fights World Warriors. And it's time for the US West region. And who else would be more than happy to join us today to talk about the West Coast? But my man, ChrisCCH. Hey Chris, what up, dude?
Hey, what's up? What's up?
Yo, thanks for joining me. Dude, straight off the presses, off of an exhibition that just happened a few minutes ago. Congratulations on that, by the way.
Thank you.
Showing people that you are still on top of your game, man. How you doing, dude? It's chilling?
Yeah, I'm doing great. It just feels good to be able to win that tournament. Coming off like CLG and then that as well. Helps build confidence for like World Warrior coming up. So it's been going well.
Nice, man. So like, dude, I know we can talk about your accolades all day long, but before we get into that and the US West region, I would like to talk about you, dude. Like, tell the people, dude, which game was your first Street Fighter? What characters did you play? Like, give us that background, dude. I think a lot of people that have followed you know about this information, dude. So lay it on us.
My first Street Fighter was actually Street Fighter 4. I got into the game like super late into its lifespan. It was like 6 months before Street Fighter 5 came out or something, so it was Ultra Street Fighter 4. I remember I got into it because my brother was telling me that I need to play this game for like so long. It was like several months of him telling me that I need to pick up this game. And then eventually it was on like a sale on Steam, so I was like, all right, I no longer have an excuse to not get the game. So I finally got it. I don't remember what like the very first character I touched was. I want to say the first character I played was Ken, like jumping into training mode for the first time. That was the first character I picked.
Why am I not surprised?
Yeah, it's not very surprising. But after that, I was like, I don't like all this like input stuff, because I will mention like before Street Fighter 4, I played a lot of Smash. So I wouldn't really count that as like my first fighting game, but I played that since I was like 6 years old or something. So I played that a ton. And I go into Street Fighter, I was like, I don't like any of this like input motion nonsense. So I asked him what character like has the least of these, and he told me that I can just play Guile, and he doesn't even have motions. He just has like these charge inputs, which were at least a little bit easier for me to understand. And there's only 2 of them, so there's not really anything to remember. I was a huge fan of that. So pretty much just after that, I tried playing Guile, and I don't even really know why I stuck to the character even after I got to the point where like motion inputs didn't bother me, but I pretty much just kept playing him. I played a couple other characters in Street Fighter 4, like I played Soccer a little bit, which is why I was so excited when she came back in 5. I also played Yun. I was waiting for Yun to come back in this game for a while, but I kind of figured he wouldn't, but I was glad that at least Soccer came back. So that's pretty much like was my first introduction to fighting games, and I was never really good at Street Fighter 4, but I did play it like quite a lot within those like 6 months before Street Fighter 5 came out. And then obviously when Street Fighter 5 dropped, I just played that a ton and never stopped.
So I always ask this too, like, I'm very curious, like, how did you get just motivated to play it? Like, were you just playing with people live, with your friends, or purely online? Like, how did you get motivated to keep playing this if it was your first like fighting game?
Yeah, I would say it probably helped that I did have my brother who, like I said, he introduced me to the game, so I would play him a lot. So that was pretty good for keeping me motivated. Other than that, I would pretty much just play online. And I remember, I think the big thing is like I would play online, and I don't remember how many matches it took before I won like my first ranked match. I still remember what it was, because it was like I don't even know, he had like 100 points or something in Street Fighter 4 as a Hugo player. And I just did I'd like just learned how to do Sonic Boom, and I was finally able to like win a single match. And I think I just remember the feeling of like actually finally be able to win a single game at all, and it felt so good. And I think that's kind of just what kept me motivated. For Street Fighter 4 at least, like I didn't really go to any tournaments or anything. I remember the first tournament I went to for the game, actually, it was like was that PAX? There was like that, how they have like the single elim like tournaments for no prize or anything. I played in that, and I actually went I went, well, I guess not 1 and 2, it would be 1 and 1, but I was very surprised to win a single match in that tournament. But when Street Fighter 5 came out, of course, I had tournaments and stuff to keep me motivated. But with Street Fighter 4, outside of like just my brother, I don't know what kept me motivated. It was just kind of fun, and it felt good to like practice stuff in training mode and then apply it in matches and win. So I just kind of enjoyed playing online as well.
Yeah, no, it's I always say too that in modern fighting games, first contact is definitely online. Like it's harder to find people in a live setting to play with, unless like you have siblings, sure, maybe an uncle or a parent, sure, but realistically, like you're gonna watch videos and you're gonna be interested in like, oh, that was pretty cool. Or now that you can download it, you don't have to go to the store no more. You download the game, and then you're like, some people are like, I just want to play story mode. I want to go to training to figure things out, or I go to the matchmaking and just like test things out, man. But from 4 to 5, definitely it was still the internet age. A lot of great players came from the online world in 4, and the last couple of years from Street Fighter 4, those online warriors ended up being the best players in Street Fighter 4, and some of them carried on to Street Fighter 5. You know, Punk was one of them. You know, Knuckle Dew continued on. Like a lot of these guys, a lot of these great players have carried on their skills, and it's just great. And you went to PAX. How young were you back then to enter that tournament? I'm very curious.
13, I think. 13 or 12.
8.
But I think 13.
Magic number. That's a magic number.
13?
You know why? Let me tell you. I was about that age playing Street Fighter 2. So was Tomo. Tomo here was also 13. Mike Watson.
I didn't know that.
So
Mike Watson too?
Mike Watson is a year older than me. John Choi is 2 years older than me, so I'm like the youngest. But we're within the range. We're like, I don't know if you guys watch Naruto. Like us three, we're like the legendary Sennin of Street Fighter, because we've traveled the world playing this stuff like at our era, and we've passed the torch on to our respective players. Like from my end, I actually pass it on to quite a bit. You know, ChrisCCH is probably one of them that you guys know now. Like very great chem player. Snake Eyes and stuff like that, and John Choi passed it on to like Samurai, right? Like those are like the styles, as you can see, like offensive styles from the south here, defensive zoning, that's Samurai, right? Like Watson didn't really much play the new games, but you know, he always kept me in check, you know, to make sure that I was doing it right. You know, he always made sure I treated you guys like crap because he wants you guys to win. You know, it's the tough love, and I'm like, all right, new generation, but like he means well, and I stuck with it. But yeah, like I said, 13 is a sad magic like age. All right, now we're going to Street Fighter 5, and like what clicked with you wanting to even like be a part of this like tournament scene? You know, what is it like? Yo, I want to get out of this whole like playing for casuals. Like what got you really into that tournament life?
Yeah, I think when Street Fighter 5 dropped, I remember like the first couple days it came out, I just did the same thing as I did with Street Fighter 4. I just hopped on ranked, and in Street Fighter 4 I would like never win much at all. Like I would beat some people, I got better obviously, but then Street Fighter 5 drops and you're playing all these people who are like completely new to fighting games, and I just smoked all of them. I'm like, oh my god, I'm the greatest now. I went on like a 20 win streak or something the first time it dropped, and that was like the first time I'd ever like kind of had any sort of success in fighting games, even if it's just beating up people who probably have never played a fighting game in their life. It still kind of it felt good, and it kind of motivated me to keep improving in that game. But as far as going to tournaments, I know the first tournament I went to, it was one of the Red Bull Proving Grounds in Seattle, and I never really had any interest in going to tournaments until like my brother had way more interest in going to tournaments. So I think he went to like a Red Bull Proving Grounds and I didn't go to that, but then like the next one I went with him. And I think I did okay, and I think getting that exposure to tournaments the first time was really important. I remember specifically Kyle P. We like played in bracket, and then afterwards he had gone up to me and be like, "Hey, you're like this random 14-year-old kid here." Came up to me and was like, "Hey, you're actually like really good at this game." And so I met like quite a few of the people in the Seattle scene at that point. I remember it was like Kyle, Jabril, Nightmare. Those people were all there, and I started to get to know them. And like once you know people, once you know people on the scene, then you don't stop going. So once I like knew about them, they said like, "Hey, come to more events." And yeah, from there on out, I mean, I went to all the the like monthly or so tournaments that are happening in Seattle, and yeah, you just kind of connect with the scene from there.
That's sick, man. Like you're, it's a very healthy, approach that you're. You get motivated by your sibling. You go out and you see like, dude, this is really fun. There's events happening. Shout outs to Red Bull for the Proving Grounds event that also brought in a whole new generation of players that wouldn't have normally been excited about it, because like majors there were everywhere, but like it's far away for a lot of people. Like in the West Coast, our big majors, when we were having a lot of majors with NCR, or was SCR when it was around, Evo, right? And that's just about it, right? But nothing like really in your hometown. So like,
there was Northwest majors. Actually, I forgot to mention.
You're right. You're right. Did you go to any of those?
Yeah, there's actually, I was gonna say, there's actually kind of a story from Northwest majors that I forgot to bring up. It's like, I think I was 12 at the time, and my brother clearly just took me to all the tournaments. So he went there for Smash. That was like before either of us had played Street Fighter 4. So I was either 11 or 12, and I was there just for Smash. And I remember I went there with him. I didn't enter any games, but we were going to the event together, and the Smash room was like super packed, and also as the stereotype goes, it didn't smell very good. So I didn't really want to be in that room. So I kind of just spent my whole time while he was in there playing matches. I was just kind of out in like the main area, and of course they had Street Fighter 4 up on the big screen there. So I just kind of sat in the crowd watching Street Fighter 4 the whole time, having no idea what's going on, because I had never even really paid remotely any attention to like traditional fighting games. So couldn't really tell what was going on. But I do remember like for a few hours just sitting there in the crowd watching Street Fighter 4. Kind of, even though I can't tell what's happening, you kind of get a feel for the scene itself, right? Because you see like these players going up, you can see like the emotion on them. You can see them playing on fight sticks, which I thought was just funny. I was like, wow, they still play on those things. They're coming up, they take these like giant controllers to the tournament and bring them up on the stage. So that was kind of like probably my first experience seeing fighting games at all, just like sitting there back in the crowd and watching Street Fighter 4, because I didn't want to be in the super cramped Smash room. After that Northwest majors, I think I went to every Northwest majors after that one. I don't remember what number Northwest majors it was. It was probably like 7 or 6 or something. Mm-hmm. But I remember after going to that one, I went to all the Northwest majors after that.
Yeah, from what I recall from Northwest majors, yeah, Street Fighter is definitely a big hit over there, but it's a very strong anime and Tekken scene up there. All around games, and like all the guys that you mentioned too, Copy, The Grill, they've been really integral to growing the scene too, because they've been champions of their craft too. So and Dr. Danny Fan, I remember he dropped into one of the Red Bull events and he beat Daigo in one of the kind of casual matches up there. It was really fun. So like the Pacific Northwest does have a really, really strong scene. Not all of them get the chance to enter every tournament, but when they do, they actually really strong. Anime though, they'll come in.
The anime scene up here is ridiculous.
100% in. They're ridiculous in anime.
I mean, my brother now, I think some people probably know him, Element. Like he just plays Strive now, and he's doing really well. Of course, Zombie is up here winning like every single Grand Blue tournament I've watched in the past year. So our anime scene is ridiculous. We still have a lot of good Street Fighter players, but I would say a lot of them, like a lot of the Street Fighter players who were good at the start have kind of dropped off now. Like all the names I mentioned, Kyle, Jabril, Nightmare, JLMN was another really strong player we had. None of them really play the game anymore, which is unfortunate, but it happens. Someone moved on to other games, or just not really competing fighting games at all anymore.
No, understood. It's been a challenging couple years.
Of course,
everybody's got to move on to what they're really gonna get out of it, and some of them still support and watch. I still see them hanging around. And, honestly, I truly believe once you're in the fighting community, you're never really on.
Mm-hmm.
You may not play, but you'll definitely watch, or you support, or you're I'd still like to kick it sometimes. And it's a long pastime, man. Hey, look, I still haven't hanged it up, man. I'm still around here with you guys. But so now we talked about a bit of your history, and now let's talk now to all the awesome things that you've been doing. Now you're picking these all these crazy characters, like 11 to figure out like how to play this game. Like I played Street Fighter Alpha 2 this way. I would random select and pick any. I love the game so much that I didn't care who I picked. I just picked it. So, what was the turning point for you to like say, yo, you know what? I'm gonna start picking like characters that make sense for me. Like I'm gonna pick G. I'm gonna pick Seth. I'm gonna, Sakura works in this way for me. And then Luke comes out, I'm Luke. So what made you just go in and just really make those hardcore decisions for those characters?
Yeah, it definitely wasn't always like that for me. I wasn't always as much of a tier enthusiast as I am now. But I will say I always have been the type that plays a lot of characters. I've never really just sat down and played one character at a time. Even Street Fighter 5, a lot of the time I was just playing Guile in tournament, but I was still messing around with plenty of other characters on the side. Like Season 1, I would play like Nash and Mika as well. Season 2, I played Fong, which I don't think a lot of people knew about, but I think people I've noticed my Fong lately, it seems. My Fong's been getting a lot of attention lately because I just pulled him out, and he also had I got a 100% win rate with him when I was doing the 11 challenge. So I've always played a ton of characters, but yeah, something definitely changed in the way I started maining stronger characters. Because I remember I played Guile all the way up until Season 3. I was kind of just waiting for him to get nerfed, because after Season 3, I didn't really want to play him anymore. I wanted to move on to other characters, but it just felt like such a dumb decision to stop playing him when he was just so strong and getting stronger for some reason every season. So I kind of just never felt like dropping him for that reason. But then Season 4 came out and he finally got some noticeable nerfs. And I went to Sakura, who is obviously not the strongest character. Sakura, I think, is by far the weakest character I've played throughout this entire game's lifespan, and it's not even really close. Pretty much every other character I've played is top tier, and then there's Sakura.
How did you make it work, though? Knowing that this character just wasn't all there for you.
I mean, I thought she was actually strong in Season 4. In hindsight, I don't think she was very good. But when I was playing in Street Fighter 4, I think all that really matters is that I have confidence in the character. So I had confidence that she was at least high mid tier in Season 4. I didn't think she was a hidden top tier or anything, but I thought she was strong enough to win with. After I saw all of her balance changes she got insane buffs in Season 4, because to be fair, she was just absolute garbage in Season 3, so she needed them. But when I already played the character in Season 3, because like I said, I'm always messing around with all these different characters, so I never really pulled Sakura out in Season 3 because I knew she wasn't very good. But when I've already played that character and I see they just get all of these buffs, and they're the character that at the time I enjoyed playing the most, I felt like I should just go in and main her pretty much. And since I had confidence in the character, I felt like it's fine if I just use her for tournaments pretty much. And then I'd already been playing G, who I think everyone in the world knew was potentially the best character in the game at the time. I remember Season 3, a lot of times I pick up a broken character because they release a DLC character. I'm always going to mess around with them, and I just look at their options and I'm just this is unfair. And there's so much with G where I just this is unfair. Yeah. His buffers are too good, his command grab is too good, his V trigger is insane. And I also got to give a shout out to Jot. When it comes to picking characters, Jot is actually the one player who has decided my entire roster. He's been telling me to drop Sakura for 3 years by now, and I think he's finally gotten his wish, so I'm sure he's really happy about that. But most of the top tiers I picked up was actually because me and Jot would talk about the game a lot, and when we both knew there was a strong character, he would just tell me to play this character. That happened with it happened with G, it happened with Seth, to some extent it happened with Luke. So kind of just talking about the game with him, and him being very, very inspirational to play strong characters. Yeah. That's helped a lot. But overall, it's just kind of when I go into training mode with the character, I think I have a pretty good eye for when a character is really good. And so even if there's characters that I enjoy playing more, when I see a character that strong and a character that I feel I at least fits my style pretty well, or I can play in a way that is fun with them, I have a good strategy with them, then I just feel it makes the most sense to pick them up and play them.
No, it's cool. You see the matrix in the game, and you understand what actually works for your style and what works for the meta of the game, and can players beat it? I think you developed that really well, and most of the top players are gonna be hanging in this the championship level have to see the matrix of the game, or they won't be able to compete at that level. It's just they have to figure this out fast. It's a race. It's a race to for knowledge. It's a race to strategize and execute all at the same time. Yeah, shout outs to Jot. Jot has been one of those characters that's been under the radar for the longest time.
Oh, absolutely.
Absolutely amazing with any character he touches. It's just crazy. I know he's entered tournaments before. Our tournaments, and he wouldn't place high as yet because he's just kind of getting the feel. And then all of a sudden, freaking during like the past few years, it was just like, yo, I'm just gonna, whenever I enter a tournament, I'm top 4 or win the tournament with I don't know, my 5th string character. You've seen him with Vega, you've seen him with Akira, you've seen him with Minot, you see him with Seth. It just goes on, and Luke as well. So shout outs to him. Now, speaking of Luke, you've literally demolished most of the big events, or at least at worst, like 2nd or top 8. What is it about your style of Luke play that makes it just above the rest, at least in this region? Like, what have you been like? Yeah, let the people know, man. What's your thoughts?
Yeah, I think it was something that was really on display today in like the G4 tournament. Is that I think everyone knows I'm a fairly aggressive player. I would say I'm aggressive, but I can be controlled as well. But I'm always going for like some sort of aggression. If you watch me and Samurai play, you can clearly see that it is literally always me walking forward and him walking backwards. Literally every single time we play, that is what's happening. It's a battle of spacing, but you can see that I'm spacing myself to move forward and he's spacing himself to move backwards every time. And something I also really like about Luke is that I feel like his fireball is, obviously it's pretty broken, but it's like the perfect fireball that I want. Because I don't really care about like stepping back and playing a fireball game and like zoning them out. I just want to have my fireball as basically, it's kind of like an unbeatable poke. And that's exactly what Luke's fireball is. That's actually why I like Sakura's fireball too, because I think a lot of people consider it to be not very good, but something I liked about it is that it had literally no hurtbox on startup. So I could throw it out at whatever range I want. As long as I'm not like in range of their buttons, I could just throw it out and I don't get hit on startup with it. And Luke's is pretty similar, and also it just instantly travels across the entire screen within like a couple of frames. So I like playing those kind of characters. I wouldn't call Luke a Shoto, but he's very Shoto-esque. I like playing those types of characters that they have a fireball, they can play a Shoto style, but I like playing aggressively with them. That's why I actually think if Luke wasn't in the game this season, I might be playing Ken instead, because I think Ken plays that style very, very well. Like if I really felt like Sakura was just too weak and Luke wasn't in the game, I might just be playing him instead, as well as Seth, obviously. Seth's a little bit of a different case because he has no fireball. He's actually the only character I've ever played that doesn't have a fireball. Right. For the longest time, I considered that I would just not main a character that didn't have a fireball because I felt like it was really important to me. But in a way, comparing his V-Scale 1 to a fireball is very weird, but it serves a similar purpose to what I'm talking about. Yeah. Where I can use the V-Scale 1, it has super long range, it has no hurtbox at all, so I can still create kind of my approach with that. You can't zone with Seth's V-Scale 1, obviously, but that's not really what I want a fireball for in the first place, at least in most matchups. So I could almost play it similar with Seth using his V-Scale 1 as kind of a very abstract comparison to the way I use a fireball. So I could play a similar style with him, but yeah, I think that was a long tangent to kind of say that I think the thing that sets me apart with Luke is like my ability to be offensive with the character without just being like super ham. Like it's very careful offensive gameplay, I would say.
Yeah, you're very offensive. Like that's for sure. Your micro walking, your micro step is second to none. I mean, I think you develop such a style to where people are afraid to whiff buttons. People are afraid to stand up. It's very similar to when Punk has his Karen next to you. You don't want to stand up. You don't want to push buttons. It's like you made people freeze, and that's in this game. because of the corner carry, you know, and all the OP options after that, it's just it adds an extra layer of stress to people's games. And Samurai has been the most poised out of such a chaotic. Well, it can turn into a chaotic game because Street Fighter V now, at least the developers have made a good attempt at slowing the game down a bit. You know, a lot of the beat triggers and the activation methods are nerfed because the crush counters are nerfed too. So like, and the damage scaling. So it's a much more methodical game, but it can snowball just like that stuff. And that's why kind of Samurai still plays into that like John Choi kind of I want to control things, but at the same time I want to show you that I can do the modern stuff too. But I'm not gonna take the risks unless I'm forced to. And you've seen him; he'll just walk up, last second he'll uppercut you through your options. The Akuma stuff that he does with Luke. But and he's learning the hitbox now. So
yeah,
you're on a hitbox. So you know that's the way. Can you talk about? I mean, your thoughts on like playing on the hitbox these days compared to like, you know, your previous peripherals?
Yeah, I switched to hitbox quite a while ago. I would say I switched to hitbox at like the very beginning of the trend, where it was like right after Daigo switched. And obviously Daigo switching is kind of what started hitbox being in like the general conversation among top players. Because I mean, it's been here for a very long time, but there wasn't that player yet who was going to take it to the top level and like show that it could be done, that you could like switch to hitbox and still compete at that level. So I actually switched, it was EVO 2019. That's when I bought the hitbox. And then once I got the hitbox, I was very committed to not playing on anything else basically ever again. Because I think that's the best way to switch to a new peripheral. I see a lot of people make this mistake. They try to switch to hitbox, but they don't give up their stick entirely. Like they'll still play on it sometimes. And that will actually just destroy your muscle memory. Your muscle memory will just get so confused when you're playing on hitbox versus stick. So I just put my stick aside and never touched it as soon as I got hitbox. And I mean, pretty much I've never looked back. I play on it a couple times just for fun, but you know, when I'm seriously practicing, it's hitbox only. And now, of course, we see like almost everybody is switching over to hitbox. Over the pandemic, I think that's kind of helped a lot. You know, people have been looking into other sort of stuff to improve the game outside of just the game directly. You know, everyone's switched to PC. Now everyone's switching to hitbox as well. So Samurai's doing it. I know Nephew's doing it. Like almost everyone on the West Coast is doing it. Anton, or Filipino man, another person who switched to it. Jot, I should actually mention, I mentioned Jot picks all my characters. Jot is also the one who inspired me to switch to hitbox in the first place. So Jot actually makes like almost every good decision I've ever made has actually been thanks to Jot in this game. If not for him, I might still just be playing Sakura. So I might be playing Sakura on stick still, like Complete Boomer or something. So yeah, all my good decisions are thanks to him. Hey, I'm sorry, I didn't mean it like that.
No, I'm just
I didn't mean it like that.
You're cool.
But yeah, I mean, I think it's an incredibly good device. There's a lot of things you can see in my gameplay that are very specifically hitbox. Like when I play Sakura, I think something a lot of people would point out is how good my air-to-airs were with that character. Yeah. I don't really do it too much with like Seth or Luke because it's just usually not like the optimal anti-air option for them. But when I play Sakura, I felt like it was the optimal answer. So I would do air-to-airs with her so much. And that's something about hitbox. They're so easy on hitbox. Doing air-to-airs is so easy on hitbox. Doing like buffers is so easy. Dashing is so easy. Like there's so many things that are it's just so easy to do. Like, and you do it perfectly. You know, not like as frame perfect as possible.
So, to simplify the main differences between hitbox and like a standard fight stick. So in a fight stick, there on the lever there's throw and pull, which equals extra frames that you're going to like move around. With the hitbox is literally instant. You're literally touching the micro switch to the direction that you need to. So you're just doing it on the frame. So Tokido just released a video about dashing with the differences in frame speed on a fight stick and hitbox or those type of controllers. And on a fight stick is like 5 frames or 4 frames, right? It's done at like 5 tests, like 5 frames, 4 frames. And then on a hitbox, it's like 3 frames, 2 frames. And then he's all like, wow, you know, like that's crazy. Yeah. That's like, so think about that. If you apply that to the neutral game, it doesn't even have to be dashing, right? It's just gonna be dancing around, whips, punish moves, and that's why people are scared to stand up next to you. That's part of the advantage, but it's still an instrument that you have to learn. You have to dedicate yourself. Somebody like me, I remember the first time I tried to use one, I couldn't even find the select button. I was trying to move, and because the stream was like, hey, Jimmy was telling me, hey, you need to change the setting on the game. I'm like, okay. And I went to the stream, like, hey, can I borrow somebody's sticks? Oh yeah, here's mine, Valle. Give me a hitbox. I'm like, okay. I plug it in, and then I just unplugged that thing back. I'm like, yo, I don't know. Can somebody give me a pad or something?
That's actually the funny thing about hitbox too, is that navigating the menus is actually really tricky. Even when you're in the menu, at first it's so unnatural because you have to press this jump button to go up, and it makes no sense at first. The first time I got hitbox, that's what I was thinking. It's like, whoa, I can't even get the training mode yet.
Right. Okay. So, all right. Thank you so much for sharing your past, what your character selection these days, how you've been kicking ass. Let's talk about the region, the U.S. West region, and you've been in the trenches. I know who's been working hard, but let's hear it from one of the pros that has been grinding with these guys. Who do you think are currently in the West Coast, the top dogs, and then the up and coming players as well?
Yeah, this is my favorite topic. I think people have noticed now that I'm very passionate about the West Coast region, because the way I see it is the only reason I've been able to get as good as I am is because I practice with these people, especially when there hasn't been international competition for the past 3 years. All of the improvement I've done over the pandemic, of course, it's a result of my own hard work, but also fighting games, you have to train with someone to get better. So these are all the people who I've been training with, and I credit my skill to them being such good training partners as well. So as far as the top dogs on the West Coast right now, I would say right now me and Samurai are the top two. Whenever I enter any sort of big tournament on the West Coast, for CBT as well, I knew that my biggest opponent was going to be Samurai. It wasn't surprising. Once I was eliminated from the tournament, it wasn't any surprise to see Samurai win it. But I would actually say right after that, it would be Filipino Man. For me personally, the only two people I'm really concerned about with running into them in tournament right now are Samurai and Filipino Man. For some reason, he doesn't seem to get a lot of credit at the moment, which is actually extremely bizarre to me, because he got second at CPT, he got fifth at Combo Breaker. His results have been extremely good this season. Even last season as well, I felt like he was a really strong player, just didn't enter too much. He was always giving me a lot of trouble. Flaquito as well, another Rose player. Jot, who I've already brought up quite a few times. I think a lot of people know him as a Monop player. I don't think people realize how many characters he plays. He's very similar to me. He's also an 11 main. He is a fellow 11 boy through and through. So he can always play all sorts of characters. I will say that ever since season 3, Jot has been one of, or not the absolute hardest person for me to be on the West Coast. Just from a head-to-head perspective, Jot has always been the hardest player for me to beat.
He's actually put you in losers in some of the hardest tournaments. He put you in losers.
I'm almost every tournament.
Yeah, no, for sure. Go on.
Yeah, yes, CBT, I mentioned I didn't want to, I thought Samurai would be kind of the hardest person for me to beat. Right after that, I was thinking Jot. And neither of those ended up being the people that actually eliminated me. I still feel like it was the best choice to prepare for those two the most, because I really saw them as the biggest threats. So as far as top dogs, obviously all those guys, and then also Nephew and JB, who I don't think need any sort of introduction. I think everybody knows that Nephew and JB have been on the top of this coast for a very, very long time. So they're all up there. There are also a couple players that are kind of in a weird spot, I would say. Chris T is extremely good, but he's not really competing. He's not really competing this year. Right. Jesse as well. It seems like he's not really competing. Danka Diaz, all those sorts of players. Dr. Danny Fan was also another player I think is really good, but I think his character is absolutely horrible. I think that character just sucks in every way. His character, it'd be great if he could pick a different character.
We gotta get in the mood, dude. You gotta flex.
His character is terrible.
You gotta flex, bro. I'm in there, bro.
His character is absolutely awful. So those are some of the top West Coast players I would say at the moment. And then some of the up and comers I want to mention. I think the first one would be Anthony. Anthony slips under a lot of people's radar I wonder if you can remember the last time he was not in a WNF top 8, because I swear he's been in every WNF top 8 for like the past 3 months or more or something. Like every top 8, I see him there, every single one of them. And I remember it was so funny in CLG as well. Like we were all looking through the ladder. It was like last minute we're trying to figure out who's going to qualify. I didn't even realize Anthony was in the tournament. Literally like 5 minutes before the top 8 was about to start, he just pops up in like 7th place on the ladder. I'm like, I didn't even know you were playing. But of course, Anthony just had to show up and make top 8 for that bracket. I think like I remember being in a very similar spot to Anthony at one point, where he can make like top 8 at all these tournaments. It's players like, I feel like me, Samurai, maybe JB as well. Like some of these players where when he runs into them in top 8, he just can't really get the upper hand against them most of the time. But he has been incredibly consistent, like an incredibly consistent player. I'm honestly like very impressed by just how consistent he's been. And I know he just keeps getting better and better. His results, like, they'll go from he's getting top 8 and then 7th every time. Now he's kind of getting like 5th or 4th or 3rd. So he's slowly making those improvements. I really like to see that. Another player I would say is Matoha. Yeah. He's been, I would say, throughout pretty much the whole pandemic, he's been very consistent as well. Just kind of in the same spot, not being able to quite beat like the top competitors too consistently. Another player I do want to bring up is Hylix. I think not too many people know about him. I think a lot of people were impressed by his play at CPT though. I remember seeing like a lot of people praise just how solid he is at CPT. So he's been around for quite a while. And it's always a question of like how much he's playing the game. You know, it's a question for a lot of people. But I think he's a very solid player. And I know right now he's like fairly serious about competing and getting better. So I always like to see him enter brackets to see how far he can go. It's a really deep region. Like there are a lot of players. I think one thing about this coast is that we just don't seem to enter tournaments as consistently for some reason. Like that's one thing about me. I just enter all the online tournaments, but a lot of the players I listed enter maybe like they'll occasionally enter online tournaments, but they're not like super consistent about it. I know Samurai has actually been very consistent entering like every online tournament. Over the essentially qualified for Capcom Cup. I think he's pretty much been entering like all the online tournaments he can ever since then, which makes me really happy to see. It's always good to have that competition in the bracket, because I'm just going to enter the bracket no matter what. So however many strong players decide to show up is always a benefit for me. I think those are some of the strongest players. I know like there are still people that I didn't name even after naming so many that come to mind, is like Mira, Myers. I feel like I'm still forgetting players.
There's a lot. Trust me.
There's a lot of players over on this coast.
There's a lot. Like I can probably list out at least like 35 of them. I run your guys' tournaments all the time, and you're right. A lot of them don't enter every week. You know, you even have like some killers from other parts of the states, like you have like Rambro entering with Fall, you know, and he's one of Wednesday night fights with a lot of the top players that you mentioned as well. You know, he doesn't enter every Wednesday night fights. You know, you have the Lucias from from the Arizona Lucias, you know, Flappy.
That's actually something that the Arizona scene has kind of been surprising me lately. They have quite a few up and coming players there as well. Like they have Thrasher, of course. They also have Gurf the Mighty and Tiramisu, who I don't feel like they don't enter too many tournaments, but
right. Exactly.
They're on rank. They're very good. I play with them quite a bit. They're good. So the Arizona scene has actually been pretty interesting lately. Yeah. So like, you know, in case you miss anybody, like West Coast, don't worry. We know you guys are grinding. You know, we would just love for you to enter more events. You know, it's the last year of Street Fighter V. I mean, you know, we still got to show you still got to show like your skill and talent. Like we miss you. So, but one player I'm surprised you missed, Flaquito. Wait, I think I mentioned Flaquito, right?
No.
Wait, I definitely remember saying
you
like
said Filipino man.
I said Filipino man. Did I? I feel like I briefly said Flaquito after that because I mentioned talk about another Rose. I swear I mentioned Flaquito. Yeah. It was brief, but I swear I mentioned Flaquito. No,
I
swear.
I'm messing with you. But so it's Flaquito, and actually both Flaquito and Filipino man. I don't normally get the credit that they deserve. Like Flaquito got second in the LCQ of CPT before. Filipino Man has literally been 9th place at Evo every time. Poor guy. And then obviously plays top 8 at every event that he actually takes part in, and majors throughout Street Fighter V's lifespan. And he's crazy. Probably the best Rose player in the States for Street Fighter 4. For sure.
Yeah. And in this game too, I feel like he's the best Rose player in the world personally.
Yeah.
I mean, I can't really see any other Rose that is better than him. He judges the other Roses quite harshly from what I've seen, and I can't blame him because I do really feel like his Rose is just like a cut above any other Rose I've seen.
Nice. Now you know it's refreshing to talk about like our West Coast peers. You know, like we love you guys, and you know, we see you on the West Coast Discord every time you guys. Like Samurai puts in work in training some of these guys too, like the Hilexes and the Anthony. I actually play Anthony a lot in the D-Gen hours just to kind of brush me up on like how the current meta is. I love playing shuttle matches a lot. That actually helps me to look at other matches like more clearly. Because when I'm playing a bunch of like Street Fighter 5 matches, it takes me a while to click. And then, as you saw when I was playing again, I was actually getting into the zones. Like that's how I learn. Like I gotta be airtight where I'm gonna play at with Ryu. Even though he's not the best character, but it's fun. But I can see a bright future with more of these West Coast players. You know, as Street Fighter 5 is on its last legs, or going into Street Fighter 6, and I think everybody's gonna come out and play again. But yeah, so you mentioned the region now. What are your predictions through World Warrior US West regions? Like who's going to make it to the regional finals?
Let's see. So the whole 8, I think I can probably predict the whole 8.
Let's just say like who the top 4 is, because honestly it's 8 could be a lot of people.
The 8 is hard. Yeah, it's
really
hard.
hard. Let's just say like, you know, the 4. I think that there's, because now that we're talking and you're going to name some names, this hopefully is going to motivate them to play. So let's hear it.
Yeah.
Let's hear it.
I would say for sure Filipino Man. I would say probably Filipino Man, nephew JB. Because I know I'm pretty sure Samurai will be playing in the qualifiers, but he can't play in the finals if I'm not mistaken.
Correct. Yeah. So all CPT qualifier players that made it into Capcom Cup, they can play in the World Warrior ranking events, but they cannot enter the regional final. So their points will just default to the runner-up in case they were the number 1 spot. So, but
yep. In that case, I would say like, well, I guess I didn't mention me, but I'll be there, I promise. And then Filipino Man, nephew JB. I can feel pretty confident about all of those. I also, it's adding a 5th, but I'm like very confident that Flaquito will make it too. I feel very confident that he will.
You gotta get him back in the field. I haven't seen him in a bit.
There are a lot of people I know who have not been entering lately, but when it comes to World Warrior, I'm pretty sure they'll be joining.
Is this coming up? Speaking of World Warrior for the US West region, it is coming up next week. All right, and how it's gonna work? It's on just like the standard Wednesday Night Fight schedule, where it's on Tuesday is bracket play, and they're gonna play up until top 8, and then which starts at 7 o'clock, and then on Wednesday, top 8 is gonna start at 7 p.m. Pacific, and it's gonna be just like CPT rules, 3 out of 5 the whole way. In the regional finals, it's gonna be the top 8 players, the overall point scorers that make it. It's gonna be 3 out of 5, a whole brand new bracket, no losers. So it's gonna be a long day or a long night. Yeah, it's gonna be that's in December. It's gonna be a lot of regional final events in December, and it's been going great so far with like so many regions. We're all super like proud of every organizer around the world working with us. We're part of it too, obviously, but like you know, this is the first year of the program. It's getting a lot of people to come out and play still. That there's something to look forward to, and another chance at Capcom Cup. For Street Fighter 5, and this time I really do want to see the West Coast make their mark, because I know there was a certain exhibition that happened, and you know, I'm just gonna give the Midwest their props, but realistically, we're looking to see who the best player in the world is, and all I gotta say is the West Coast still plays top 8 there. Right?
Yeah, there wasn't any other Midwest in top 8. I'm not gonna lie.
At their own event, and Capcom Cup, I would love to see a West Coast player do their thing to show which region and who the best player in the world is. So, my man, Chris, thank you so much for your time, and I know you just came out of an exhibition and you got things to do. Let people know, like, what's your next event? Where can they reach you? Your stream, your social media? Have at it.
Yeah, I mean, next event definitely World Warrior tournament itself. I think that's next Tuesday, if I'm remembering.
Yep, the 26th
tournament
is when it starts, and then
26th.
Yep, and then the 27th is top 8.
Yeah, so that's definitely my focus right now. But I mean, I'm actually just playing in online tournaments like all the time. Obviously, WNF, it's not, even when it's not a World Warrior, I'm still playing in that. West Coast Roast is another one. When any random tournaments pop up that I wasn't expecting, like CLG or the G4 exhibition today, I'm just always playing in those. And I usually stream them over at my channel at ChrisCCH _ on Twitch. ChrisCCH _ also similar Twitter handle if you want to see what I'm up to. I definitely, if you like seeing people competing tournaments, I am playing in so many tournaments like all the time. I remember last week ended up there was like no tournaments, and I was like, wow, this feels weird. Like it's a whole week of not having to play in tournaments. I was like, when was the last time I've had a week where there are just no tournaments at all? It felt like it had been a while. So yeah, I'm competing all the time. When I'm not competing, I'm doing things like taking 11 to Grandmaster, which is pretty fun. Yeah, at the end of the day, I really love competing in online tournaments. It's kind of crazy to think about how long I've been doing this, because when it started up, I was like, all right, I got to enter all of these because I don't know how long they're going to be around for. Once the pandemic is over, everything will probably go back to normal and I'll not have too much to compete in. But then it kept going for quite a while, and I guess that mentality of trying to enter just absolutely everything never stopped, because I just try to enter every single tournament for the West Coast that I see.
I couldn't have asked for a better representative of the West Coast. You're like your hunger, desire, your passion, your compassion for like leveling up the West Coast region with your play. You're only good as your region, right? And I mean, you've been responsible for leveling up a lot of us and the world too. Seeing how you're playing all these characters, it's a treat to see. So thanks again, Chris, for your time. I'm looking forward to seeing all you guys compete again. US West regions 26 and 27. I believe 26 27. Yes. Next week, it's on top 8 only is going to be streamed. That's on the 27th. It's a Wednesday on twitch.tv/leveluplive, this channel. All right, that'll do it for this month's Wednesday Night Fights World Warrior interviews. So, who would you like next month? We're gonna do this every month, so you guys are gonna be surprised by the guests. So, all right, Chris, we'll see you in the tournament. Good luck. I'll see you guys next time.
Thanks so much for having me. Peace out.